At the 1994 Royal Rumble, so many dastardly heels beat down The Undertaker, crushing him and pounding him to the point that he would not be seen for 7 months, even though before he left the arena he said, "I will not rest in peace." But then Ted DiBiase, the dastardly $1 million man, decided to say, "I'm going to create my own Undertaker with primetime Brian Lee." It didn't work. It didn't work at all. But Vince McMahon said, oh where is my Undertaker gone? Oh where can he be? There's only one man that can solve this mystery, and that's Frank Drebin from the Naked Gun movies. That's right, Leslie Nielsen and George Kennedy were brought on to solve the mystery of the missing Undertaker. Where was the Undertaker? These vignettes played out over quite a few weeks and multiple times during this particular event. Well, this is more topical than most of Vince McMahon's attempts to have celebrities involved, but nevertheless, Undertaker versus Underfaker was the main event of this particular program. Not Owen versus Brett, not that great steel cage match that they devoted nearly an hour of pay-per-view time to. Undertaker versus Underfaker. Never change, Vince. Never goddamn change. I'm John Renton with the Retro View of WWE SummerSlam 1994. On August 29th, 1994, on a Monday, they had this pay-per-view. Vince McMahon made some odd choices in the 90s. This also was just after the acquittal for the steroid trial or thereabouts, and he was all happy. He's like, "I told you I didn't distribute steroids. Let that other guy take the fall. Ha ha ha." I don't know why I decided to do the Vince impression, considering all the shit that has come out about him. But I felt the need to do it just because, yes, with SummerSlam 2024 coming up in just a few days, I decided to retro-view some SummerSlams I hadn't gotten to. Now, obviously, I've seen every single SummerSlam, and I decided to see if this event is as good as I remember. And you know what? Some of it is. In fact, I would argue that this is one of the better SummerSlams. 93 still has that, just fucking ridiculous ending with Lex Luger celebrating like he just destroyed the goddamn naval fleet that was about to, create an embargo around the United States, but he won via countout. So at least this felt like a turning of the tide. And then, of course, we got to SummerSlam 95. Well, let's get into some facts and figures. One, they were at the brand new United Center in Chicago, Illinois, and they had around 23,300 fans. And if you look at the capacity of that particular thing, yes, okay, they might have inflated the numbers, but they still had quite a few people there. Every seat was jammed. They still found a way to fill a big arena. 235,000 pay-per-view buys, 300,000 pay-per-views worldwide. And I do want to say any of these facts and figures for the pay-per-view buys come from WrestleNomics' page. Check them out, support them if you can. So, if we go back to SummerSlam 1993 at the Palace of Auburn Hills, where Lex Luger didn't win the title from Yokozuna, but then won the title from Hogan about, just under 4 years later, they're standing in Detroit. So, we had 195,000 pay-per-view buys, 250K worldwide. So, yeah, they had a bit of an increase there, because they didn't rely on Luger to carry the damn thing. We go to Survivor Series 1993, because remember, at this point, they were only running 5, maybe up to 6 pay-per-views a year. And then when they started In Your House, they were getting up to where they were doing 10. But we go to Survivor Series 1993, Boston Garden, 128,000 pay-per-view buys, 188,000 worldwide. Yeah, not exactly great. The 1994 Royal Rumble, where they had 2 winners, Brett and Luger. That was in Providence, Rhode Island. 146,000 pay-per-view buys. So things, they were trending downwards. I mean, it was a little bit above Survivor Series, but nevertheless, 200,000 pay-per-view buys worldwide. Mania 10 at the Hallowed Halls, easy for me to say, in Madison Square Garden. 283,000 pay-per-view buys, 420K worldwide. King of the Ring 94, how much does this guy weigh? I retro-viewed that and nearly lost it and nearly wanted to dig up Art Donovan's corpse and just be like, what the fuck? What were you thinking? So, 148,000 pay-per-view buys, 185,000 pay-per-view buys worldwide. And then we go after this, Survivor Series 94, and Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio, Texas, 169,000 pay-per-view buys, so not great. SummerSlam 95, by the way, was in Pittsburgh and was down 30K, down to 205,000 pay-per-view buys. SummerSlam 96 at the Gund Arena in Cleveland, by the way, where Shawn Michaels politicked his way to beat Vader handily, and then decided that I didn't want to work with Vader because he was a prick. 150,000 pay-per-view buys. 157,000, that is. So, yeah, not exactly great. WWF was struggling at this point. Randy Savage was a master of ceremonies for this. This is the best that they could find for Randy Savage, who would leave the company shortly after this. I think by like early November 94, he was done. He was loyal to Vince, and he wanted to stick around, but he still felt that he had some time left, and he did. To be fair, Randy thought he still had some time left. Vince thought that he was too old. Maybe not that he was too old, but he wanted to go in a new direction. He wanted to go with youth. Now, Randy was 42 at the time. So, Vince had a point to his, thought process. He was just 4 years off. Because by the time we got to about 99, which actually was 5 years after this, yeah, Randy was totally physically shot, but he had that feud with DDP, had a few world title runs, and he had some great matches with Ric Flair, and some memorable stuff. He also flip-flopped from face to heel a few too many times, but I digress. He says the brand new United Center, and then brought to you by the new generation. And Randy was all about pushing the youth. He worked with Shawn Michaels on some house shows in 1992. I would have loved to have seen a program between him and Bret. I would have loved to have seen Randy Savage work with a lot more of the young people. And you got to see that a little bit on Raw, Don't Misunderstand Me. In 93, and even in the part of 94. Vince and Jerry Lawler welcome us. They mentioned how Diesel and Shawn won the tag titles from the Head Shrinkers at a live event, I believe, the night before. So the Head Shrinkers and Bam Bam Bigelow IRS match for the opener is not going to be for the tag titles. And then the dark match, by the way, was Adam Bomb versus Quang. Look up who Quang was. You might be surprised. So Bam Bam Bigelow and IRS, along with Ted DiBiase, who statistically was one of the worst managers that WWF ever had. I mean, Ted's a great talker. And Ted meant a lot, and he had either a neck or a back injury. I don't remember what the fuck it was. Whatever it was, it necessitated him ripping off the state of Mississippi. Good thing no other athletes have done that. And, yeah, they took on the Head Shrinkers, Samu and Fatu, along with Alpha and Captain Lou Albano in the corner. And this was... It was fine. It was at least the crowd was hot. I'll say that much. Though IRS by this point, Mike Rotunda, was near the end of his full-time run. I mean, I think he wrestled a little bit in the 97, maybe 98, and then he was essentially done. What a maneuver is a line that always pops me from Vince on commentary, who was never very good. He was always very lost, but he at least had enthusiasm. So Albano gets knocked down at one point at the end. Alpha gets in and causes a DQ. And then we get a triple headbutt with the Samoans to Bam Bam Bigelow. They never knew what to fucking do with Bam Bam. I know that he had his drug issues and stuff like that, but so did a lot of people on that roster. And come on. So it ends in a DQ. Leslie Nielsen, doing a one-man show. Leslie Nielsen. I need to get the second one of these, by the way. I love these movies. I don't know why I was allowed to watch them as a kid. Because, in hindsight, as funny as the sight gags are, there's a lot of very adult humor in this. Also, renowned murderer O.J. Simpson is looking for the real killers in hell. So, yeah, nevertheless. He's looking for the Undertaker and then catches George Kennedy. I don't know why he caught him, dressed up like the Undertaker, but whatever. And they're both on the case. And then Alundra Blaze took on Bull Nakano, as Randy Savage would say, but Bull Nakano, who had a good look, even in the 80s and early 90s especially, and even the mid-90s. But you take a look at her now and she looks like a totally different person. And apparently she wants to maybe have one more match, one more run. I don't know if that's the best idea, but we'll see. But it's a women's championship match. Alundra Blaze, the former Medusa, and then the future Medusa, and Bull Nakano. Luna was in the corner of Bull Nakano, and this was fine. The hair whip stuff where it's just... I don't know how they didn't lose their hair. I mean, I know it's a sleight of hand, and it's the way you trick people, but goddamn, that looked vicious. And Bull could work, and Alundra could work. And they gave this about a minute longer than the opening match, and a couple minutes longer than a couple of the other matches. I still think, though, they could have maybe made this about 10 to 12 minutes and cut a couple minutes off of another match that I love We'll get to that. Luna was up to her old tricks. We got, a nice power bomb for 2. The missed leg drop off the ropes. And then we got the German suplex 1, 2, 3. So not a bad match. Alundra retains the women's title. And that's about it right there. And not a bad match. But they never really cared about their women's division. In hindsight, you take a look at some of the workers. And also Bertha Faye, Rhonda Singh, who I'm sure was a nice person. Couldn't work a fucking lick. They should have gotten more women involved in this goddamn thing, but Vince wanted to do a cost-cutting thing. Instead of, I'm not saying pour millions into the women's division, but put at least effort in. Todd Pettingill's with Diesel and Shawn. They have almost all the gold. Nash would find his groove in promos, and Shawn, at this point, Shawn was really just kind of growing as a performer here. Razor, along with Sweetness Walter Payton, that is. The late Sweetness Walter Payton. You better leave her alone. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I can't help it. I have an issue. Taking on Diesel with Shawn Michaels in the corner for the Intercontinental Championship. So, after Razor had unified the Intercontinental Championships, he lost the unified Intercontinental title to Diesel, I think at a Superstars taping a couple weeks after, might have been just a week after WrestleMania 10. So Diesel was the Intercontinental Champion. Him and Shawn were the tag champs, and there we are. Well worked as you would expect. We get a chin lock, so Wrestling Biles is all happy. We get interference. We get an exposed buckle spot. So basically, Walter Payton was kind of an ineffective corner man because he wasn't really doing much. But then again, I mean, still in great shape. Apparently, he did battle depression too, and I feel really bad because he was 46, 47 when he passed away. But still, he was a name and he meant something. And obviously, it makes sense since they were in the United Center in Chicago, Illinois. You want a Chicago Bear there. There was an exposed buckle spot, a side slam 1-2. Nash ends up getting crotched on the post, tears his quad. Can't help it. And they kept the pace up here. This was about 15 minutes. I mean, we got a shoulder block by Diesel. Actually, that was kind of impressive. I'm actually amazed that he got the height he did, considering he's talked about the fact that one of his legs is totally fucked throughout most of his career. And then we get like Shawn trying to do something at the end where he's going to hit Sweet Chin Music while Razor is being held. Razor moves, Diesel gets hit, and it's like Razor got shot. And it is Chicago, so you know that happens. But he's not normally the type of person that gets shot. Nope. Let's just go away from that. Go away from the politics. And we get Razor covering Diesel, rather. 1, 2, 3. New Intercontinental Champion. The old Intercontinental Champion. The Intercontinental title kind of stayed among the clique, didn't it? Except for Jarrett being champion from about the 95 Rumble till that In Your House in 95. Convenient. So, nevertheless, Savage chimes in about various things that are going on. Todd Pettin goes with Luger and Tatanka. The WWF opinion poll. Did Lex Luger sell out to Ted DiBiase? Now, I remember at 13 years old thinking, I don't really care because I don't really care about Luger. And I kind of soured on Tatanka, who, don't get me wrong, is a great worker. Until he talked, because the talking didn't... The promos just weren't there. They just weren't in hindsight. But Tatanka says, Lex, you sold out and I'm going to prove it in this match. Lex says, it's a free country. People can do what they want, but I didn't sell out. What? You blithering idiot? You freaking sandy mullet sporting fuck. Anyway, Luger and Tatanka had a match that was more story-driven. Later, Ted DiBiase showed up with money, and Luger was like, I didn't do it, and then got rolled up. Good job, fuckface, you got beaten. And then Tatanka attacks Lex, and locks $1 million dream on him. Oh no, and then stuffs money in his mouth. Oh no, Tatanka, part of the lumpy Indian tribe, as Bobby Heenan once said. That's Bobby Heenan's line. Before you come at me in the comments, Tatanka turns heel. Did anybody really buy Tatanka as a heel? Tatanka had a pretty decent run, actually. as far as years. I think he was done by 96, but still. Nevertheless, Tatanka turned heel, joined the very, very, very underwhelming $1 million corporation, and Lex was made to look like an idiot again at SummerSlam. No wonder right after SummerSlam 95 he would be gone. So, Gorilla calls Tatanka a disgrace to the Native American people. And a Cheap J Strongbow was there. Look up Cheap J Strongbow, by the way. Look that up. Look that up. Grumpy Gus and everything. Jarrett then took on Mabel. And there were white people doing the, the wave thing. Oh, yeah, man. Oh, you could tell which people had jobs in Chicago at this point. So, then, boy, this match just wasn't it. I mean, Jarrett had to basically play defense. Mabel Viscera, he could hit that spin kick pretty impressively, but man, if he ever came close to sitting on you, you wanted to get out of the way. Because he was just a big old satchel-ass sandbag full of shit. And Jarrett ended up basically, after Oscar, by the way, punched him, no DQ was called, he missed a sit-down splash, and then Jarrett covered him 1, 2, 3. And to think that Vince McMahon would make this guy the king of the ring, Mabel, not Jarrett, a year later. Jarrett runs away, more Naked Gun stuff. And look, it popped me because I do remember those movies, but it wasn't... I don't think Leslie Nielsen knew where he was at this point. And I guarantee George Kennedy didn't. But package on Brett and Owen. This is where we spend nearly an hour, from the package to the interviews to the cage setup to talking to Davey, who had glasses. It's fucked. Brett, my vision's fucked. And Jim Neidhart, who apparently got into somebody's stash near. I love Jim Neidhart, don't get me wrong. Man, he was on something at this point. So, Stu and Helen are talked to also. Various brothers are there. Bruce is there. Various, Diana Smith. And they built this well. They, got the cage set up, that big blue bullshit cage that I hated even as a kid. It was an eyesore. And it was an old thing, even back to the territories, where you'd have to kill time to bring pieces of the cage out. This is before War Games, by the way, where they lower from the ceiling. But if you didn't have the production or didn't want to pay for that kind of stuff, you brought the cage out bit by bit. Because you couldn't just put it in the goddamn foundation and have it sprout up or whatever. So, whatever, it's fine. Brett apparently had been battling strep throat. I'm going to tell you a little sidebar thing. There was one time in late 05 to early 06, I had about a strep throat, and I actually lost like 35 pounds. I was out of work for like a month. No, seriously. I was fucking bedridden. I was shot. I had a variation of it in 2017. That's why you guys might notice sometimes I have a bit of a cough. Unfortunately, dietary stuff, but also just, a few things have kind of wrecked, so sometimes when I get excited, that happens. Yeah, that was real fun. Nevertheless, Bret Hart is much, 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 much stronger than any of us could hope to be, battling through strep throat. He stumbled a bit in this promo, but, he would get the promo especially by 96, 97. And you could tell that this meant a lot to him to face Owen. And Bret versus Owen in a steel cage match for the WWE title. I'm not going to get into every bit of detail about this particular match because, one, it's a marathon. It's like 32, 33 minutes. And we've already gone a good 10 to 15 minutes building up this whole thing, talking to Davey, talking to Neidhart, all the stuff I mentioned, and building the cage. So escape is the only way to win. Escape through the door or over the top to the floor. And I would argue that as great as this match was, and it is one of my favorite matches of the 90s, they could have cut 5 minutes off of this thing, and I think it would have been fine. And I'm not knocking Bret. I'm not knocking Owen. Owen should have been champion. Owen should have been champion coming into this, and was actually apparently going to be. But they didn't pull the trigger on that. Yes, Bret wouldn't have had his 8-month title reign, but he could have won it back from Owen. It could have meant something. Then he could have dropped it to Bob Backlund. What are you doing? That's your son. God, that 7.5 minute long chicken wing. Good Lord. This match was well worked as you would expect. They took it seriously. It's a jump start. They were cooking. They were doing some great bumps off the cage. They were doing some great bumps, into the wall. The big superplex spot that I always remember that still sticks out in my mind. I always make sure to watch that a few times. Big bump there. Again, I argue 5 minutes could have been cut off, and I think it would have been fine. But then again, given the main event, maybe it's a good thing this did go long. The leads to the door were nice, where they really made it feel not comical, but dramatic, like shit. Burst of energy, gotta stop my brother from getting out of there. That was nice. So the sharpshooter got locked on. Brett managed to get that, and then they're both trying to get out of the cage. Owen looks like he's about to have Brett, just stopped enough where he can get down, but then his leg gets caught, and then Brett jumps down. And then Neidhart waits about 8 million years to clock Davey, and then Diana takes a bump as well, because Davey clotheslines his own wife. Good job there. Diana bumps about as well as she cuts a promo, too. So, then Neidhart and Owen get Brett back in the ring with the cage, and they're beating him up. They're playing King of the Hill. The Hart brothers are trying to get in the ring. Davey's trying to get in the ring. Davey then suddenly remembers that he is one of the strongest people in American wrestling, despite the fact he's British, and basically finally rips his shirt, and that's the source of his power, being locked in. And he unleashes his absolute power and climbs in and then stumbles, because Davey was not coordinated at this point. And then Owen and Neidhart escape. They cut a promo celebrating their victory. You didn't win, Owen. I love you, man, but you didn't win. So yeah, there you go. Nearly an hour, though, from video packages starting, or interview pieces to video packages, all this stuff. It was good. It was really good. But anyway, then we see the Taker and Taker build. Rumble 94. Undertaker has disappeared. I think he had a back injury, if I remember right. And Ted DiBiase brings out the fake Undertaker, which is primetime Brian Lee. Didn't work. Didn't even work for me at 13. I'm like, this is stupid. Why was this the main event? So, Paul Bearer has the Druids bring out the big old casket. And they open it up. And a big old urn with a big old spotlight. And then Undertaker is back. So there you are. And it's Undertaker against Underfaker. And I don't have anything to say about this. I mean, Brian Lee tries to hit 2 tombstones. Gets hit with 3. And Undertaker wins. And then Savage pitches to Leslie Nielsen and George Kennedy, who they find the case outside the casket, said the case is closed. Yeah, but you know what? Watch these. Watch these movies. But I need to get the second one on Blu-ray at some point. God damn it. That being said, don't get me wrong. This is a pretty good event. And I got more retro views coming up here, but just, Jesus Christ. Jesus. There were some great moments on this, and then there were some shit moments. So nevertheless, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ricklin. I'll see you soon.